Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the 22nd day of August in the year 2022. Sure hope you're enjoying your Monday, no matter where it is you are in the country. And as you do every Monday evening, you welcome me into your homes so that I might bring you this week's newspaper. And I appreciate that very much. And from the right side of your screen, you can see this week's front page with the headline Lessons at the Park. And I'm going to just give you a little bit of background on this story and how I found out about this and how it all came to fruition. Mayor Pronti is big on Facebook, and oftentimes when he goes on Facebook, there's discussions about issues and things that go on in the borough of North Arlington. And a couple of weeks ago, somebody made mention that Macaluso Park in North Arlington sort of needed a facelift, and that person wasn't wrong. It kind of did, it was very bland and some in need of some upgrades. So they discussed how to do this, and rather than just send the DPW down and paint the place, he suggested with parents that kids and their families come down, they beautify it themselves, and one of the resident artists would draw some landscaping, and the kids put their handprints all over the walls. And this is something that those kids are going to remember for the rest of their lives, and they can probably go back to that park in 20 years and say, those are my hands when I was 6 or 7 years old. So some great stuff at this event. Good number of families and their children showed up, and several members of the borough council were there, along with Dan Pronti, the mayor. And it seemed like everybody had a great time making the Macaluso Park look so much nicer than it already did. So I hope you'll check out that story. But that's what forward thinking is all about. When people have complaints, turn it around on them a little bit. Ask them for their solutions, and that's what Mayor Pronti did here, and it turned out to be a great experience for everybody involved. So you got to love stuff like that. I think it's just fantastic when people who have complaints can be part of the solution as well, as rare as that may be. Moving on to pages 2 and 3. If you are a parent of a child in the Carnegie school system or one of the charter schools or things of that nature, you know that your children grow out of their school uniforms faster than you can blink. And so a Carney mom and her daughter decided they would get together and start the Carney Uniform Exchange. And it's been going strong. It is still about. And the idea is this. This is not something to be a charity necessarily, okay? This is something logical. When you buy school uniforms and they last for 6 months at most, what's the point of first holding on to them and not giving them to somebody else? So the whole concept of this was designed just so that this would not go to waste and people could save money this time of year. And let's face it, with prices rising and with inflation, the cost of school uniforms is going up as well. So they needed to get this done. This woman who I can't wait you to read about pulled it together with her daughter. But they needed some help. That she was getting so many donations of uniforms, but for she and her daughter to be the only ones to clean these, even though most of them come in clean, you still want to launder them again. It was very, very difficult. So she spoke with Juan Barroso, who is the chief fire inspector in the town of Carney, as well as the treasurer of the FMBA, who then spoke with Mina Claudius, who is the president of the Carney PBA. They got together. Mina contacted a friend who owns a laundromat. The laundromat cleaned every single piece of donated material. And now there are so many kids who will have these uniforms, many of which were never even worn, still with tags on them, if you can imagine that. And again, this is not designed to seem like it's, hey, you can't afford uniforms, come get them here. It's for everybody. They're going to go to waste. They're barely used. And if your child fits in them, take them, go. And then when you're done, when your kid grows out of them, you're going to pass it forward. Pay it forward yourself by giving it to somebody else who may be able to use it. So there's no stigma involved. If you're a parent, you need to take a look about this. We have all the details in the story. And I want to thank Mina and Juan for bringing this to our attention. And that brings up a sidebar to that, and that is that this is another example where the PBA and the FMBA are working together. They have done more in the last few months, I think in the last 20 years combined. Those two unions didn't always do things jointly, but now they are. And occasionally it involves CS11 too, which is the civil servants union, DPW, other town workers, etc. So Mina and Juan, great job together, and congratulations also to the wonderful mom and her daughter who pulled this whole thing together, and it is going strong and will be a great help to so many people in the town of Carnegie. The library has created a new playground space on the Garfield Avenue side of the building between Chestnut Street and Carnegie Avenue. And we received word from Josh Humphrey, the library director, and Lila DeCastro, the mayor's assistant, that the library park for children will be named for Al Santos, the current mayor of the town of Carnegie. Very rare that somebody who is alive gets an honor like this. But when you consider that Al Santos has been mayor for 22 plus years and is the longest serving mayor in the history of the town of Carnegie, it shouldn't come as much as a surprise that this honor has been bestowed upon him. And in middle September, there will be a special dedication ceremony with refreshments and entertainment that Josh is pulling together. And I hope you will consider attending it, because when Josh throws a party, it's a party, and it's a good one. Now, last week we had this story. I did a live drop with it. This guy here, take a look at the story, read it. I don't want to go through it again because it's so disturbing. Was a Carnegie is a Carnegie resident who was caught in an undercover YouTube sting operation by a vigilante, mind you, not a law enforcement officer, but who allegedly solicited a 15-year-old boy for sexual relations, invited the kid over. A common thing on YouTube these days are these predator catchers, or what they're called, and they go after these guys who, for some godforsaken reason, think it's okay to have sexual relations with minors. This decoy was 15, but I got to be honest with you. I've seen some videos on YouTube where the decoys are 7, and they go after. It's just mind-boggling that this happens, but it does. And every time I see another one, I'm still, my mind gets blown that it continues, even though these predator catchers are out there, and police departments and sheriff's departments are doing these stings on their own. These guys continue to do it. So this man here stands accused of trying to lure a 15-year-old to his home in Carnegie for sex, and he has since been arrested by the Carnegie Police Department. And there is a video of it on theobserver.com if you haven't seen it yet, where this screenshot was taken from. So just a very, very, very difficult situation. And keep your eyes open, folks, because you never know who the predator is. Could be somebody in your neighborhood, could be your upstairs neighbor, it could be your next door neighbor. But it's unfortunately, I just expect that eventually it would happen in Carnegie, because I've seen it all over the area in Jersey and in other parts of the country. But it was only a matter of time before it happened here in Carnegie as well. This is the opinion page. You can check that out at your convenience. The Lyndhurst Police Department had its Junior Police Academy in July. Unfortunately, I didn't know about it. And they had a very extensive program, including a trip to New York City where they were in the harbor unit. And they sailed around Manhattan and Brooklyn and got a chance to see the outside of the World Trade Center and the Statue of Liberty. So I want to thank Vinny Ottieri for bringing all this information to me, and Steve Passamano, who ran the camp along with a whole bunch of other guys from the department and gals as well. Check it out on page number 7. They've been doing this for a long time in Lyndhurst. They have, I think it's probably in our readership area, the longest running Junior Police Academy, and the kids absolutely go into this clueless about what to expect and then come out with a greater appreciation for law enforcement. Now, this final story this week, the lead lines were inspected, and engineers are going through to people's basements in Carnegie, and soon the work will begin on restoring these these lead lines into more modern equipment. But because they're going to have to tear up the ground, they're not going to be able to do some of the paving that would have been done normally this summer or in the fall, and perhaps even into the spring. But read the story, you'll find out what's going on. But that program for repaving, is not off by any means. It's just going to be postponed, because why would you want to pave a street only to have to dig it up to get into the pipelines? So that's going to be put on hold. Read that whole story. And then also in Belleville, where the water main break was last week, all of the work has been completed there. Jason Bernstein has three sports stories this week, 2 local football team previews, and 1 soccer team preview. Just bear in mind, it's still pretty early, but the soccer and the football season starts in August, and I believe some of the first football games of the high school season are actually this Friday, before Labor Day. So he'll have previews. Just be patient if you are one of the coaches of one of the fall teams. There's a lot of coverage area that we have to get through, but Jason will get to you eventually, just as Jim Haig always did in the past. 2 pages of classified, so if you're looking for a job, plenty of job offerings in this week's paper. Not as many rentals as normal. I don't know what that means, but it's just the reality of it. So check out the classified as well today. That's going to do it for this edition of the Observer Live, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight. Stay well, stay cool, stay dry, and we will see you back here again 1 week from tonight from the newsroom. Good night, everybody.